case of Jerome of Sandy Cove is a strange one indeed. So strange, in fact, that it remains a mystery to this day. His story is one of confusion, mystery, and folklore. Jerome of Sandy Cove was a man who appeared suddenly and without explanation on the shores of Nova Scotia, Canada. He could not communicate, and the only name he seemed to recognize was Jerome. The morning of September 8th, 1863, dawned crisp and cool. Two fishermen, on their way to the Bay of Fundy, noticed a man sitting on the sand. From a distance, he seemed to gaze out at the water, but something was amiss. The morning was chilly, and the man seemed unwell. As they approached, they saw that the man was holding a loaf of bread and a jug. He was shivering from the cold, but what was most alarming was that he had no legs below the knee. They carried him to their village, their hearts heavy with unanswered questions. Who was he? How did he come to be in such a state? The man, his eyes darting around the room, tried to speak, but only unintelligible murmurs escaped his lips. But he said one word.
Jerome.
So they called him Jerome. A village doctor discovered that someone recently amputated Jerome's legs. The bandages were bloody, but the operation appeared skillfully done. Despite his ordeal, Jerome seemed to be in good health, but his mind was a labyrinth they couldn't navigate. He didn't speak English or French, and all their attempts to communicate were in vain. The villagers tried to piece together his story, but it was like trying to assemble a puzzle with missing pieces. Jerome's hands were soft, not like those of a laborer. He wore fancy clothes, and he had neatly trimmed hair. Was he a man of higher status? Though they tried, no one could get Jerome to speak. One local man, Jean Nicolas, was fluent in 5 languages, but Jerome didn't respond to him either. For many years after his discovery, Jerome lived with different families in the village of Digby. They cared for him, fed him, clothed him, but remained as mystified by him as anyone else. Despite their kindness, Jerome remained an enigma, a silent guest in their homes. As the years passed, Jerome's health declined. The spark that had flickered in his eyes when he was first discovered dimmed. His once robust figure became frail. Jerome, who had once been the talk of the village, became a mystery, a shadow of his former self. His death, on April 15th, 1912, was as mysterious as his life. No one knew what caused his demise. They buried him in the village cemetery, his tombstone bearing the name he had mumbled so many years before. The villagers mourned him, not just for the man he was, but for the mystery he represented. Some people thought that his death was a relief for him, a way to escape from a life that had become too strange, too burdensome. Others believed no one was ever meant to solve the mystery of Jerome. Many people have wondered about Jerome over the years. Who was he? How did he come to be in such a state? How did he end up on the beach at Sandy Cove? The villagers, the historians, the storytellers, all have tried to unravel the enigma of Jerome. One idea is that Jerome was the only one left alive after a shipwreck. The unforgiving sea, in its relentless fury, had claimed his shipmates, leaving him stranded on the shores of Sandy Cove. Perhaps they amputated his legs to desperately halt the spreading gangrene caused by frostbite. Or maybe it was an attempt to stay alive, a sacrifice he had to make to survive the wrath of the sea. Another idea is that Jerome was a sailor, a victim of the harsh life at sea. Perhaps someone threw him overboard, leaving him at the mercy of the waves, only to be washed ashore. The salty sea damaged his vocal cords, silencing him, or perhaps he was trying to hide who he was, afraid of being found out. Jerome appeared when the world was in turmoil, when wars were being waged and lives were being lost. Some people think he was a soldier, a casualty of war, left with scars on his body and mind. The trauma of war had robbed him of his voice, leaving him a silent testament to the horrors of conflict. Maybe Jerome was a man who wanted to disappear, to escape from a past that haunted him. Perhaps he was running from the law or from a life that had become unbearable. His silence was his shield, a way to forget the past and start anew. Because Jerome is so mysterious, so unlike anyone they had ever known, some people have come up with more imaginative explanations. They think he was not from this world, but a being from somewhere else, an alien in a strange land. Some people, the skeptics, the cynics, don't believe that Jerome's story is real. They suspect someone fabricated the story to deceive people and establish a lasting legend. Was he part of the trick, an actor in a grand play? Or was he just a pawn, a victim of a cruel joke? There are many accounts of this tale. Details have changed in the story and embellished over the years. Yet Jerome's story, with all its unanswered questions, reminds us that there are things we may never understand. People have passed down this story, a puzzle and a mystery, through generations. Watch these videos next for more exciting stories.